So moving on with the implementation, let's start commenting that BIM throughout the years was a little bit optional in the beginning because AutoCAD was dominating the market for the architectural, engineering and construction area, but BIM throughout the years has been strictly implemented in some countries, such as for example Norway and Sweden, which integrate this as much as possible. But in many countries, BIM is regulated and it has a mandate use for specifically public construction. So it doesn't depend whether if you want to or not use BIM. Throughout the years, all the different governments of the countries are adopting BIM because the benefits for public construction are clear and are present. Many countries still use BIM as active programs or as something being recommended, but throughout the years BIM has seen an extensive implementation, and it's quite possible that this trend is going to be present even more in the future. So keep this in mind, that the use of BIM, besides being extremely beneficial, is going to also be mandatory for public construction and something imposed by the law. Now, besides this, we got for the implementation, if you want to make it a really methodical type of process, you can always create something called a BIM implementation plan. Now, for this course, I'm not going to dig into deep detail on how to generate these documents, on how to create these protocols, but usually we make a small study of the firm, of the enterprise, of the different agents, of the different processes that the enterprise use. With this small study, we can create a BIM implementation plan where we start talking a little bit about the benefits of BIM to the bosses, to the CEO, to all the different branches of the enterprise. And then we define something called the pilot project, where we're gonna start testing out the benefits of this methodology on a small flexible project specifically for learning purposes. Besides BIM implementation plan, in some future you might more than once note this term called the employer information requirements, which, to sum it up, are pretty much the parameters that the client will give us to specifying, for example, which type of LOD we want for the model or the level of development, whether we want to create a lot 100 model, 200, information for the stages of the project, so for the amount of information, and pretty much all the parameters that are required to execute the BIM project. And with the parameters that the client gives us, we can create something called the BIM execution plan, or in other words, the BEP. The BEP is pretty much a protocol containing all types of information. In short words, it's the game rules that everybody working on the project will follow. The nomenclature for example, for the layers, the nomenclature for the elements, how many levels the project will include, who's gonna work on which part of the project, the origin of the project, the nodes, the basic information, which type of process the team will follow, pretty much all the game rules that will take place to execute a BIM model in the most coordinated way. So if you want to manage a BIM implementation in a more methodical manner, you can always review and investigate a little bit about these three concepts, which are pretty much protocols the team will follow.